Smile on. Yep, here it comes. Hello, CX Igniters, and welcome to today's CX Quick Tips. I have Lauren Volpe. Actually, there's a couple ways your name is pronounced for those who may not be familiar. So if you could just give us those pronunciations to make sure.
Well, it is Volpe, but a lot of people say Volpe, and also people say Volpe. It is not Volpe. It's Volpe.
Good. And you are a CX practitioner. You are working and living and breathing CX every single day for your organization at QuadPay. And you also have done some things from a transformation perspective that really makes CX and the ROI on it very clear. And that's why I love having these discussions with you, because of two things. First of all, it's not just theory, it's real and you're applying it. And also you're making a difference, because a lot of organizations are struggling with the value, the benefits, if you want to just talk about that, of customer experience and how it could actually impact the organization. For those of us who have been around and immersed in CX for a long time, I mean, a lot of times we intuitively know that it's true, but you're actually living it. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
No, all right.
Excited to be here.
Yes. So today we're going to be talking about the best CX ROI strategy. And again, this is coming from your experience, right? So some people may say, well, it's maybe a little bit different for me. And you know what? That's okay. But the beauty about being able to have these discussions is understanding the different perspectives. Wouldn't you say that's true?
I would agree. And I would also just put this out there that just because I think this is the best, that doesn't mean it actually is the best for everybody. And I have been known to occasionally add new things into the mix. I'm always learning new things, new tricks, new businesses, and you have to be agile. And I would say that is one of the tricks of the trade, is just keep your eyes open. And it is like a moving target sometimes.
Well, and just like with human beings, last time I checked, the change that happens is, there's some consistencies, but there is some variability, and some of those unpredictable things that occur. And last time I checked, both customers and employees are human beings.
Absolutely. And if you don't keep an eye on one or the other, something might get out of balance on that seesaw. So always look at your customers and your employees, and try to make sure that everybody's happy. Employees are not happy, the customers feel it. That's a well-known fact.
It is. And, a lot of people will say it. But again, like you said, the well-known fact is there's data that supports all this stuff. We need to quit talking about it. It's how do you actually do the transformation? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So what's the best CX ROI strategy? And for you, one of your favorite is the happy customer path. So tell us a little bit about the happy customer path.
Sure. So dealing with a happy customer is usually much faster. You're usually able to get them in and out of a transaction much quicker. There's no pushback. So your average handle time is lower, saving money, better CSAT scores, usually a better customer effort score. And obviously it leads into one of my other favorites, but I'll leave that for in a few minutes. But happy customers are also very willing to provide reviews, which also really strongly promote your brand and loyalty. And it's something about like that crowdsourcing. Customers will go and they'll say, oh, wow, great. Okay, there's so many positive reviews. This is good. I feel really good about this brand or this product. And also they're willing to talk to their friends, their family, or even just us. For example, our product team will routinely reach out to customers just to see, hey, how was your interaction? How was the product? Was there any friction? Anything that we could do better to improve? And not to say that we can do everything that our customers ask for. I wish we could, but those are sometimes golden nuggets. And again, it's not that it's costing less money, it's saving a ton of money ultimately, because these are things that you traditionally would pay for, right? You do a focus group, it's not free. But when customers are willing to give you their opinion, especially if it's a good opinion, it's a golden nugget. The other side, of course, is the unhappy customer path. And I don't know if you want to cover that now or save that
We'll say
for
that.
towards the end.
Yeah, we'll save that. And because I want to kind of, really dive into a little bit of what you were talking about here, because oftentimes what I find is that separation that exists. Like, for example, if we're talking about that quality of measurement in the contact center and that contact center interaction, a lot of times it is not viewed upon as a systemic type of issue. But to me, what you just explained is, hey, we're looking at this holistically. We're looking at it as friction as a whole, regardless of whether it was a, contact center touch point website, interaction, or even a fulfillment issue. Is that correct?
Absolutely. In order to see what the customer is seeing and feeling what the customer is feeling, you have to look at all points of entry. It can't just be based on your contact center agent or your chat or your SMS. You also have to look at your help center, for example. Do you have all of the articles so that the customer can serve themselves and save that interaction altogether? So there's tons of different areas. You can look at the user interface. Is it smooth? Is it glitchy? Is there anything that we can do to improve? So yes, you have to look at like all entry points, and most basic, and everybody assumes the only, or not everybody, most people assume the best one is the contact center. I think that you have to measure them all. You have to look everywhere.
Well, and one of the things about the contact center has been that we don't oftentimes leverage the insights that are just really sitting there on a day-to-day basis, just waiting to be leveraged, like you're saying.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing that we do all the time, and our agents love it, we do Ask Me Anythings. And I'll put one or two of my core team members up with a bunch of the agents, and they'll just go back and forth asking questions, but also providing feedback. Hey, I keep getting calls about this, or I wish I could give the customer a better, faster answer for this. And that's where we get a lot of our next steps and our next articles that we're going to create, our macros, all of these things that actually create a good ROI when you look at agent satisfaction, right? So they're not my technical employees, but if they don't have good tools and good resources, and they're stumbling and struggling while they're on the phone with a customer, it's very frustrating. And they take it seriously. This is their career, and they want to be able to help the customer. But if we don't provide them with what they need, they're going to struggle.
And
so again, it kind of goes back to ESAT.
You're right. And because, so there's really, there's a mentor of mine that I've followed, and I mean, it really has kind of guided my thinking in regards to an employee engagement and creating that culture. And he talks about, 7 really core elements being important. And one of them is feeling valued. And oftentimes we don't see the connection in regards to helping employees to feel valued, is that we give them what they need.
I know. I mean, if you don't have good tools. So for example, in the Philippines, I mean, almost all the agents are working remote still because of COVID. And if you think about it, they probably have 6 or 7 tabs open at any given time. And you don't know what their bandwidth is as far as their internet speed and all this other stuff. And it causes a lot of nerves and anxiety. And is this one going to slow me down, or how is it going to work? So by making sure that we have the tools ready for our agents, they can anticipate, okay, I got this, I can handle this, this is good.
Yeah. And so here's kind of the thing that's really interesting. And oftentimes we just kind of go, oh, I didn't realize that, is that people want to do a very good job until they realize they can't. And think about that. They want to do a good job until they realize they can't, and then they give up.
Yeah, and as an agent, that must be probably one of the most frustrating things, because you're there, this is part of your career, right? You're not just there, I don't know, wasting time. And yeah, I mean, imagine if you went to your job every single day and you didn't have the basic tools, or even the reference materials or the point of view. And then the other thing that I think is really critical is that when the agents or customers give you their opinion, I think it's really also very important to close the loop. Let them know, hey, thank you for your opinion. Thank you for your insights. This is what we're going to do, or it's on the roadmap, or sometimes, unfortunately, you have to say, we just can't do that, but we still appreciate you. And I know for a fact that the agents truly appreciate that.
Most
Makes them
definitely.
loyal. They understand, wow, somebody heard me. Woo, that's cool.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So now you talked about friction, customer effort, you talked about customer sat, but you're a net promoter. So that's one of the paths also that you talked about as far as your CX ROI strategy. So how does that play out?
Well, so for Net Promoter, yes, I am definitely a promoter. And so some of the things that you can benefit from, obviously, it's less expensive to acquire those customers who have heard good, positive things about your business. It's less expensive for a promoter to actually go out and talk about your business, even unprovoked or unprompted. You're out for coffee and you say, wow, I bought this item and it was the easiest thing and you should try it out. And people will download the app, and instead of it costing, I don't know, just an example, not a specific, say $40 over coffee, it didn't really cost you very much at all. So I do believe in Net Promoter. I don't believe it is the only thing you should be looking at. You need to be looking at multiple different KPIs, but I really love the Net Promoter Score, and I love to look at not only for customers, I look at it for the merchants, and we're going to be implementing it for our agents. I want to know, would my agent invite their friend to come and work at our company or work at that BPO? It's very important to me. So
Well,
that's another great ROI.
and I think you bring up an important point too. Oftentimes people lose sight of one particular aspect of, retention and promotion, regardless of whether it's CSAT or effort or whatever have you. While it may be less expensive to retain that customer versus acquiring a new one, ultimately a company's growth comes through customer acquisition, right? And
Hmm.
and what better one or person or entity to attract new customers than your existing ones, right? So you don't want
Exactly.
customers that are apathetic, and that's why for when you start looking at net promoter, that point of apathy or that range of apathy is something that you want to manage. You don't want to ignore. It's not just looking at the ones that are actually doing the promotion, right? It's how do I actually
Agree.
get more people up into promoting?
Exactly. I agree completely. I'm a fan of Net Promoter, but again, you got to look at multiple CSAT, customer effort, Net Promoter.
Most definitely. Okay, so then the last and final best CX ROI strategy is the unhappy customer path. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So it's probably opposite of what most people would think about. When you think about ROI, you're thinking about, profits and benefits and things like that. The unhappy customer path is something that is expensive and it's very difficult to recover from. For example, it could damage your brand, right? It could damage your reputation in a particular industry if you have unhappy customers who are going out there vocally saying, I'm unhappy, this happened, and they didn't respond or whatever. It's also way more expensive to service unhappy customers. So as I was saying before, with a happy customer, average handle time, it's much lower. Customers satisfied, they get off the phone. Unhappy customers, oh, no, no, no. They want to talk it through. They want to hear every detail and they want to get their point across no matter what, even if the agent or the core team member can't really do anything for them. And again, like reputational damage, it's very expensive. It probably is more expensive to fix a bad interaction than it is to actually create 5 or 6 great interactions, right? Because it takes so much longer. You've got to document everything, make sure your process is tight, and involve product engineering, all these other teams. When if it was a good, smooth transaction, off the phone and onto the next. When it's not, it's a difficult interaction. Plus, it stresses out whoever is talking to that customer because they want that customer to be happy.
Well, and it's not realistic for us to think that we're not going to have problems. I think what
Right.
you were talking about also through that, that process and that journey and all of that is really what we have to be able to do is recover effectively.
Right. Exactly. Sometimes the recovery can mean everything to a customer, even if you can't specifically fix their issue. Just knowing that they were heard you're accepting their feedback and you're going to, elevate it or make sure that somebody knows about it, oftentimes will restore the entire interaction and the relationship, just knowing that they were heard.
Most definitely. Lauren Volpe, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom on CX Quick Tips. How can the CX Quick Tip listeners get in touch with you?
I would just go to my LinkedIn page, Lauren_Volpe, and that's probably the best way. And I appreciate you having me on. I always love talking about CX.
Oh, thank you for coming in. Lauren is also a frequent contributor to CX Global Media, so make sure you keep an eye out for Lauren and her practical yet wise tips. Lauren, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
That was awesome.
All right. Was it too long?